Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Signal 11 Outdoors. We are in voter season. It's time for elections coming up, and we're doing a couple of shorter versions of our podcast to cover some of the important topics as it relates to the upcoming election in the state of New Jersey. I believe there's only two states right now that have a gubernatorial vote. I think it's us in Virginia. So it's kind of interesting. I think a lot of eyes are on these states. So tonight we have a special guest with us, John Rogalo from NJOA. How are you, John?
Very good. How are you, Steve?
Good, good. Great to have you on here. We're gonna jump into a again. This is somewhat of an abbreviated podcast because it focuses on basically the election and how it pertains to the fishing and hunting world. So what we're going to do, John, is I'm going to start out by letting you give us a little background on the New Jersey Outdoor Alliance, and just so the folks at home know, we may do an extended version of this podcast, really dig into the nitty gritty of the NJOA. But for tonight, I'm just going to do about a 20-minute podcast with you to talk about the upcoming election in just a couple days. So, John, if you could tell us who you are, your title there, a little bit about the NJOA and how you got involved, and then we're going to jump into the topic at hand.
Very good. So the NJOA, New Jersey Outdoor Alliance, we are a group of volunteers. Nobody gets paid anything. And it's basically a donation of our time and efforts and the varied backgrounds and knowledge that people have to interact with the legislature on behalf of the outdoors men and women of New Jersey. Gosh, I got started lifelong member of the New Jersey State Federation. In that organization, I serve as the Vice President North. In the NJOA, currently I serve as the president. And that's a little bit of a funny story there. I'm going to put it out there. I still work. I'm not retired. And the past president was Ed Markowski, wonderful man who was retired, a retired conservation officer, wonderful background, connections, and we were holding our annual reorganization meeting, and they said, "Oh, come on, John, you could take one of these positions." And they said, "How about vice president? You can do that." I said, "Well, what's it entail? I don't have a whole lot of free time." And they said, "Well, if Eddie can't make a meeting, you got to run the meeting." I think I can do that. And lo and behold, about a year later, Eddie had a heart condition. And for about 8 months, I was running the meetings. And I was like, oh boy. And then he got better and he came back and we thought everything's good. And unfortunately, maybe 6 months later, he passed away.
Sorry to hear that.
Left me in the in the hot seat. So we've had a
Yeah.
couple of reorgs since then. And the NJOA is there's 9 trustees currently, I believe. And we sat around a table and they said, "Well, we like the job you're doing. Keep doing it." So here I am.
Good.
I'm currently serving in that capacity as the president of the NJOA. Actually, we call it the chairman. We don't call it a president, but that's where I'm at.
Chairman. Good. I'm speaking to the chairman of the board. I like that. That's interesting. I mean, I'm going to just let everybody know. I mean, I really I'm guilty of not really knowing much about the NJOA, being somebody that's been in Jersey my whole life, hunting and fishing my whole life, and I kind of got to know John and Scott a little bit, and I met another one of the members the other day, and I've learned a lot about you guys in a brief period of time. Again, like I said on an earlier podcast that I did this morning and put out there already, as I got a little older now, things have slowed down. The kids in sports and stuff is all done. My kids are, one of them's married and one's in college and one's moved out already. So I have a little more time, which I do dedicate a lot of it to, the family, but also my business. But I'm actually going to get more involved in the state of New Jersey with the different organizations.
Careful, Steve, you're going to end up in a seat.
Yeah.
You're going to be a
No.
trustee.
That's your seat. That's your seat.
No, we need more trustees.
Okay. Well, I don't even know what that entails. I mean, I sound like you did a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
But I think what it is I talk to people all over the country, and but I talk to a lot of people in New Jersey. I deal with a lot of stores, both fishing down in the South Jersey area, the tackle stores, and all the hunting shops throughout the state. Almost all of the stores I'm in there, and I've gotten involved in a lot of conversations, but I'm at a point where I think I don't want to just disappear, go hunt a little bit, run my business. I kind of want to get a little more involved, not a lot more involved with some of the state functions that go on with the different organizations. And I know of a few of them, and I'm actually impressed with everybody I've met from them. So, that's where I'm at. So, John, I'm sorry to hear about your friend. Obviously, he taught you everything you know, which means
So he was a
he had
wealth
to
of
be a heck of a
knowledge.
guy.
Yeah.
I bet, and that's awesome. That's such a steady that's such a steady foundation to an organization like that when you have somebody like that, and then
Yeah.
obviously you're filling in now and now took over that position, and I'm sure you're passing on all your knowledge as well. Um, so that's cool. I think what we want to do is we're going to jump into the reason why I got you on here tonight, which was going to be to discuss the upcoming election in New Jersey. But I do want to say what I mentioned to you in private, and I said it earlier. I think a nice extended podcast where you could really spend some time getting into even deeper into the NJOA. I think
Hmm.
that might be good because, like I said, I didn't know much about it. I had no idea really the basics of what you just told me. So, it's very interesting, and I think people definitely are going to want to learn a little bit more about it. And one thing I think a lot of people have noticed if you're in the state of New Jersey and you're watching this, and you're watching the candidates, one of the candidates has mentioned the NJOA numerous times, and
Yes.
he's
Yes.
proudly endorsed by you guys. And I'll tell you what, I think he's such a genuine guy. I really like the guy. What I know of him personally, which is not a whole lot, but what I really like is how he really educates himself on the stuff he's
Yeah.
talking about. So I've talked to him privately a few times. I've had him on a couple podcasts, but we talked before and after, and he talks highly of you guys, and he's really into the hunting and fishing, the regs and stuff. So I'd like you to take over the microphone here and talk to everybody watching as to why it would be a really good idea for them to get out to the polls we only got a couple days left, but we're going to get this out there. So go
Yes.
ahead, John.
Okay, it's critical that anyone who enjoys the outdoor sports, hunting, fishing, trapping, that you get out and vote. And I'll give you just a brief scenario or synopsis as to why we endorse Jack. Because the NJOA itself, we are neither Republican nor Democrat. We support legislators that support our concerns. Years back, when Steve Sweeney was the Senate president, he actually helped us immensely. He was Democrat, but he did help us a tremendous. He and Steve Oroho would team up and help us together. It was a great, great relationship. That's Senator Steve Oroho from Sussex County.
Yes. Know him well. Good man.
Absolutely. So after the primary, I waited about 2 weeks and I sent an email to both candidates, and it was almost identical except for the name. Congratulated them on winning their party's nomination, and that the sportsmen and women through the NJOA would like to sit down and have a meeting to talk about our concerns, and was well received by Jack. I actually ended up at a dinner with him hosted by Assemblyman Jay Weber down in Morristown, and Jack sat down with everybody that night and spent 5 minutes with each individual in the room. And he said, what can I do for you? I said, well, we really want to have this meeting. Okay. We swapped phone numbers and dinner went on, and that was a Thursday night. Sunday morning, I get home from church and there's a text message on my phone from Jack Chittarelli. And I'm thinking, this can't be Jack. It's got to be one of his staff. He's not going to call me. He called me. I called a number back. That was his personal cell phone. And he said, John, when are we going to get this meeting together? What works for you? I said, well, sooner the better. Tell me what you have available. The next Tuesday morning, 6 of us met with him for an hour. We went through multiple issues that impact us and our activities. And he was extremely attentive. He asked questions and very straightforward, very honest with us. At the end of the meeting, he says, well, what else can I do for you? And we had experience with this with the Christie administration. And we said, well, how about 2 people on your transition team? He looked across the table at me and goes, done. Name your 2 people. And I said, well, how about Larry Harity, former director of Fish and Wildlife, who's one of our trustees, and Anthony Morrow, who served on the Christie transition team on our behalf. He said, send me the resumes. You got it. I've never experienced anything like that with a legislator before. In the meantime, for the next month, we still tried every which way to reach Mikey Sherrill. And finally, through a retired chief of police in Vin Gopal's district, they reached out on private cell phones and exchanged some talks. And, Vin Gopal was told, well, you really need to talk to these guys. So he said, okay. He forwarded my message onto the Sherrill camp. And I got an email back, listed 5 of their people from her team and said, thank you for your interest, but we don't have time for you. And based on that, she doesn't have time for us before the election. She certainly won't have time for us after the election. Jack, on the other hand, is willing to help us and stand by us. I don't know how many of you know of former Senator Ray Lesniak, but his mission in life is to dilute the Fish and Game Council, to replace 3 of the 6 sportsmen's members with animal rights activists. And he intends to have legislation drafted over the next, you're going to see this over the next year, and try to get legislators to put it out there. And we told Jack about this, and he told us point blank, no such legislation will ever be signed on my desk. It will die there. It's not happening. That's a heck of a commitment. And for all the sportsmen and women out there, that's more important than you can dream of. Because if you start diluting the composition of the council, it's a slippery slope. They go a little and they go a little more, and next thing you know, you're going to have a anti-hunter telling you, oh, this is the rules now. We don't hunt anymore in this state. That's where they're heading. That's what they would like to see. And trust me, we get Jack in the governor's office, it's not going to happen as long as he's there. So we'd be safe for 4 or maybe 8 years. So that's a big reason for the endorsement.
Yeah, well, it's I think regardless of what somebody is into, whether it be the outdoors like we are or whatever it may be, if you have an interest, a pastime, a passion, whatever it could be anything. It doesn't have to. I'm not discussing just outdoors at this moment. So, with that being said, whatever your passion is, whatever your love is, whatever you want to pass down through the generations, whatever you're into, if you have 2 candidates like we do now, and you talk to both of them, and one of them is interested in your passion, one of them is interested in making things last and traditions to carry on and to stop
Yep.
all the unnecessary regulations, so you can just continue to enjoy what you do enjoy.
Right.
Of course, anybody's gonna endorse that person. So you guys went out there, you reached out to both, you got a response from both, 2 very different responses. And, like you said, I don't think you guys always endorse every time somebody's running if there's no reason to, but this case, it
Correct.
looks like there definitely is.
Yes, it has to be somebody that's willing to go above and beyond to back us up. And Jack is the man to do it.
Right.
It's, again, to me, I, like most sportsmen and women, I never had any intention of doing anything with politics. The whole idea of politics just kind of turns me off. I do vote. I've voted in every election I could, but you don't want to get involved. You don't want to get in the middle of things. If we want to continue to hunt and fish and trap in this state, we need to get involved, and we need to go vote. You got to do it if you want to maintain your lifestyle. It's your traditions.
Right.
It's actually part of the American tradition of this country, going all the way back to the first settlers. So it's critical.
Yeah, that's a fact. It's history and it's a fact. And the other thing is, just to go back to talking about getting out and voting and how not everybody's into politics. A lot of people don't want to air it out. That's understandable, and there's nothing wrong with that. The nice thing about voting is you go into a booth or however you go vote all alone. Nobody knows what you're doing. You take care of your vote. You place your vote. So,
Yes.
with that being said, you do your legwork before time. You learn what you need to learn. You go out there and you make the vote count, but you do get out there and vote. You have to get out there and vote. And the interesting thing is, we keep talking about hunting and fishing because I'm a hunting fishing podcast, but I believe, as far as I know, there's some state parks and stuff that we know for a fact that there's been access shut down to certain state parks. So You may
Yes.
not care about hunting and fishing. You may just want to ride your mountain bike somewhere, or, you may want to hike somewhere that your family has hiked and taken photos of for the last 2, 3 generations, and now you can't. We've seen that happen with the current administration in the last 8
Yes.
years. So we have to really be concerned with things like that. It's not only about people who go out and fish and hunt. It's about people who
Right.
just enjoy these outdoor. We're talking about the outdoor lifestyle, but it could be whatever lifestyle you're into. You
Yep.
better do your legwork, your homework, and make the right vote.
Yes. Public access to public lands, public resources. One of our bills that we're promoting right now is the fishing access bill. We have spent countless hundreds of millions of dollars buying land that includes ponds, lakes, and rivers with Green Acres money. And in many instances, access to those resources for anyone. If you just want to go park and take a walk, there's no place to park. There's no access. And if you read the Green Acres bill, that money is supposed to be dedicated not just to purchase up land, to buy land, but also to make it accessible to the public and to improve it for the public.
Right. Right.
That's not what's been going on. The lion's share of the money has gone simply in tying up land and doing nothing with it, which is often counterproductive for the resources there. So
Right.
that needs to be changed.
That's a that's a great point. That's a great point. How obviously, like you just said, without access to have the land and not be able to have accessibility is really it kind of kills the whole idea behind it. And I do
Yeah.
notice when I'm out and about, if I happen to be down the shore or in an area where I'm not commonly in, when I see a really nice access setup with maybe, even if it's a gravel parking lot, a little bit of
Hmm.
signage, maybe a couple of inviting first couple steps to, get into a parcel of land to check it out. And we have that. We have that throughout the state. Not enough, though, is exactly your point. Not
Yes.
enough
Yes.
money. They tie the land up and they don't let people access the land. You're right. That is really a really good point that you just made.
And the fishing access bill, that started with the scenario up at Greenwood Lake. Greenwood Lake resides half in Jersey, half in New York State. But the Division of Fish and Wildlife stocks that heavily. Over the years, people who fish up there, the private marinas have made it almost impossible for the average person to get into fish. Right now, the state's in the process of, they own the land already. It was in state parks. They transferred title to Fish and Wildlife, and they are developing a public access boat ramp on Greenwood Lake for public use. Um, More of that needs to take place throughout the state. No two ways about it.
Right.
I live next to
Right.
Lake Opakon,
Great.
and this is because of the nature of my work. I have met a lot of people around the lake, and I have access to many points around the lake. Phenomenal fishing in that lake. The hybrid stripers, the walleyes, the muskies, the bass, pickerel, everything. Perch, ice fishing. Access to that lake has become very difficult. Ice fishing. When I was a kid, there were literally probably dozens or maybe even more, maybe 100 plus access points around the lake that the public could get on the ice. Today, you're limited to very few. You got Hopakon State Park, which is all the way down one end of the lake. The lake's 7 miles long. Most of the other access points have either been closed off or signs up, no trespassing. It's unfortunate.
Yes. Yes, you are right. You are right. We looked for a place or two to maybe launch a kayak to do a little fishing. It's impossible.
Yeah,
You can't do it without going through a marina or, whatever. And you figure, hey, we pay for we some of my tax money goes toward the lake, but I can't even use it.
yeah,
So it's good. Those are really good points. I really didn't even really think about that, but really good points as we get ready to cast our vote.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one of the things, by the way, that we had brought up at the meeting with Jack, is public access to public resources on public land. And he will do his utmost to improve that
Right.
for all uses, all uses.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap it up, I have to add my 2 cents about what I've kind of, realized with Jack, and years ago, I met him once or twice, and then, now again, I've, had the pleasure of talking to him a few times in front of this, camera and
Hmm.
in private a little bit, and the most interesting thing that I find is that I really like for me, I like pretty much everything he's saying. I like what he's saying. I mean,
Yes.
I know, now we got to get him all across the finish line, and then he's got to do his best to bring everything to fruition without a doubt. But one thing I definitely noticed that I really like about him is how, like you said, he talks to people, he listens, he's interested, he has his, he adds his points that he's thinking about to get more feedback from you. And then I'm pretty sure he remembers almost every damn thing he
He
hears
does.
because
He does.
it's amazing. I've heard people tell me things like they'll say, "Oh yeah, Jack was talking about this or that with the fishing or the striper or this and that." And that I'll be like, "Wow, I think he talked about that like a month ago and
Yes.
on a podcast, and I doubt he talks about it every day, but he darn sure didn't forget it." So, a non-forgetful politician that could be really good for us
Yes.
if he's willing to listen to the people who really care and who are going to get him elected. That could be something really positive for the state of New Jersey, and we need it.
Yes. It's also very important that we know his door will always be open for us. If we have anything that's
Yes,
going wrong, any concerns, particular needs, we can talk to him. I've never felt that
yes,
comfortable with a legislative representative in such a position. It would be
yes.
wonderful for us to get him in there. And the
And
only way we do that is everybody's got to get out and vote. You got to
gotta get out and
make
vote.
sure you go.
That's our last message. Yeah, we're get out and vote. Outdoorsmen, outdoors women, whatever you're into, anything, we're basically focusing on the outdoors. Whatever you're into, if you trap, you fish, you hunt, you hike, you camp, you enjoy mountain biking, you enjoy rails to trails, whatever.
Yeah.
Get out there and vote. Let's improve what we have, not diminish what we have. Let's make everything better by getting the right candidate in there and get out and vote. John, any last words?
Nope. You said it. Get out and vote.
Good. Get out and
Thank you
vote.
much, Steve.
That's all this is about. So John, be happy to have you on again in the future and we can really dig into the NJOA even more. But for tonight, we're only days away from the election. So make sure you get out there and I'll be looking forward to seeing everybody at the polls.
In Jack's words, it's time.
It's time. Yes. Thank you. John, great talking to you. Thank you so much.
You have a good one.
Okay, take care, pal. Bye now. At this time, we'd like to thank our supporters and sponsors. Signal 11 Lures, Lip Glue, New Jersey Multi-Species Podcast, Sever Broadheads, Jersey Fluke Bellies, Favorite Fishing Rods, Timberlife Outdoors, and Buck Knives. If you enjoy the content on our podcast, please like and subscribe and turn on notifications. And please tune back in for our next episode. Thank you.